Good morning, welcome to Board Game Barrister, our local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is Tuesday once again, and that means we get to play a game today. Today we played Mille Fiori, a game by renowned game designer Rainer Knizia, published by De Beer, where we are going to build our own legacies by taking part in the glass manufacturing trade, all the way from manufacturing to the shipping across the world. I'm here with my fellow barristers, Glenn, Gordon, and Elizabeth, and before we talk about everything we liked about the game and what made it so cool, we're going to talk about how to play. Welcome to Mille Fiori, a game where we're going to build our own legacies by taking part in the glass trade all the way from manufacturing to shipping it out across the world. The goal of the game is, as it is so often, to score more points than your fellow players, and we're going to do that by placing our glass diamonds out across the board to score in various ways. Now, the structure of a round in this game is actually very straightforward. At the beginning of each round, each player is going to get dealt 5 cards from the deck. They're going to look at those cards and pick one of those cards that they want to play this turn. So if I wanted to play this card in the trade section of the board, I can tell it's a trade section card because the blue on the card matches the blue of the trade area on the board here. The little character shown also matches. This particular card shows a goblet, which means that when I play it, I can play one of my diamonds onto any one of these goblet spaces out on the board here. So starting with the first player and going around the table, we'll each play our one card that we chose to play this round, and then we will pass the remaining cards in our hand to the player next to us. Now we'll take a look at those 4 card hands that were passed to us, choose one card we want to play this turn, pass the remaining ones onto the player next to us, and so on and so forth, all the way down until we have 1 card remaining in the hand. Once there's 1 card left, those don't get played, they instead get placed face up next to the board, and they'll come up again later. So that's the entire structure of how the game plays. It's a drafting game where you're going to pick 1 card at a time and then pass the remaining cards onto the player next to you. The complexity of the game comes in the scoring for each of the different areas and the places we'll be putting those diamonds as we go. I'll do a really brief overview of how each of these areas scores. First up is manufacturing. Now, every time you choose to play a manufacturing card, it's going to show you a symbol, and you're going to have to play your diamond onto a matching symbol. So I played lime this turn, which means I could play my diamond onto any lime space. Now, your main goal in the manufacturing area is to create connected areas of your color diamonds, and when you do that, you're accumulating more and more points each time you play into that connected area. Additionally, if you can complete a triangle around one of these symbols here, that means you're going to get to play an extra card this turn. Now's a good time to talk about extra cards because they're going to come up in every different section of the board. When the game first begins, we will have put a number of cards from the deck face up beside the game board to be our extra play cards, and at the end of every round, those single cards remaining in our hands also get added to this section. And whenever you fulfill the requirements for an extra card play in one of the sections on the board, you can immediately choose one of these cards to play in addition to the card you already played this turn. You could continue to chain these. If you use one of these to get another extra card play in a different section of the board, you could play another extra card, and so on and so forth. And the next area of the board is the residences. Every time you play a residences card, it's going to show a key in the center, and that is the only type of space in this section. So whenever you play a residence card, you will just place one of your diamonds next up in the line of keys here. Now, every time you play one of these, you're going to score the points shown on that space, so this one would be worth 4 points. The thing you're trying to accomplish in the residences is to chain together your diamonds if you're able to. This play got me 4 points, but if I chain together another one, I will count the points on everything in my chain and score 7 points again for this one, and if I could do it one more time, this play is worth 12. In the residences, as soon as you've played diamonds, whether they're connected or not, on 3 different values of keys, so 4, 3, and 5 for instance, you get to play an extra card. You also get to do the same if you get 5 different values. Next up is the townspeople. Now you can see there are 2 separate charts in this section, and they both work in the exact same way even though they're separate from one another. Whenever you play a townspeople card, it's going to show you a symbol on the card, but this is the one section of the board where you actually don't have to play your diamond on a matching symbol. Now it helps to think of each of these areas as pyramids. Every space needs a solid foundation underneath it before you can play a diamond onto that space. So in order to play a space in the 2nd row or the 3rd row, we need complete foundations underneath them. If I wanted to play on this fish symbol here, there would already have to be 2 diamonds on the 2 spaces underneath it. And if I wanted to play on the 3rd row, like this lobster here, there would already need to be diamonds on the 5 spaces underneath it. Spaces on the bottom row are worth 1 point right away when you play them. 2nd row is worth 3 points right away when you play them, and the top is worth 6. And if the diamond you play is out on a symbol matching the symbol on the card you played, this is where the match symbol does matter, you double your points for this play. Whenever you place a diamond onto one of these top spaces with the little symbols next to them, then you get an extra play out of this section, and it doesn't even matter if your card symbol matched the symbol of the space you played onto. Last, we're going to talk about the trade section and the harbor together because they are intertwined in a way. Diamonds placed within the trade section only care about other diamonds in the trade section, and that looks kind of like this. Every time you play one of those cards, it's going to have a symbol matching one of the 4 types of commodities in the game, and then you're going to play your diamond onto one of the spaces that matches that symbol. Every time you do that, each player who's played 1 or more diamonds onto that commodity is going to score some points, and the more diamonds that have been played, the more points everybody in that row scores. Last up is the harbor, where we're going to be shipping the commodities we've been putting together in the trade section. Now the first thing you're going to do whenever you play one of these harbor cards is to choose one of these rows and start filling out one of those rows with one of your diamonds on one of those ship spaces. Now you want your ships to be able to ship more commodities, so it makes a little bit of sense to play your ships onto rows that already have commodities in them, because as soon as that row gets filled, everyone who has contributed diamonds to that trade fleet is immediately going to score points based on how many commodities you're shipping. The second thing you'll do when you play a harbor card is to move your ship out of the harbor that number of spaces, so in this case it would be 5 as the card says, and you always score some points right away based on what space you got to with your harbor card. In the trade section, you get an extra play for making a good deal with another player. So if I would be to play a diamond out onto this glass swan here, purple has more of this commodity already built in. They're going to score a lot out of this play because of that, so because I gave them more points than I took myself, I get an extra play. And in the harbor, you're going to get an extra play every time your ship lands directly on one of the spaces with the extra card symbol on it. Alright, so clearly there's a lot in this game. There's a ton of awesome combinations you can pull off and opportunities that come up as you're playing, and there's even more to it than I just talked about. But the nice thing is there's no additional upkeep or scoring to do at the end of the game. As we've been making our moves, we collect all of our points for our moves immediately, so when the game ends, you already know where you've fallen. When does the game end? Well, it can end in one of 2 ways. The first is if somebody uses their final diamond. That means we're all going to finish our last turn and then the game is over. Or if we happen to empty the deck, we're going to call that our final hand for the game, and as soon as we've emptied those hands, the game will end as well. Alright, so we just finished our game. I won't call it our first game because Glenn had already played once before, Gordon had played half a game. For Elizabeth and I, it was our first game, and it did show in the scores, I'm just saying. But we were trying to rush it along. Gordon had a meeting to get to, and it still took us about 45 or 50 minutes, even though we weren't making optimal decisions. We're really trying to make our decisions pretty quick in this one. So you should probably plan for like bare minimum 45 minutes, probably more like between an hour and a half for this one. It was really interesting with 4 players. With 4 players, because the hands are 5 cards and you don't use one of them, it meant when we were drawing our cards, we were never going to see any of the cards we were passing as they made their way around the circle again, so you had one chance at each one of those cards. The other thing we were definitely noticing with 4 players was that there was a lot of competition for individual squares. As a good play came up, if you weren't going to be one of the first players to play, somebody else might beat you to it, where the fewer players you have, the less of a threat that becomes, so it was pretty interesting.
So, speaking of the number of players, something that I found in this game that I didn't find in my previous half game was really being cognizant of where I was in the player order for precisely that reason. Mm-hmm. And I found that when I was going 3rd or 4th in the line, I just had to kind of set myself up to be a little more flexible and take things that were a little less optimal. And it showed in the score early in the game where I was way behind. And then when I got to go 1st and 2nd, then I kind of knew, all right, I'm probably going to get the play that I want, and I could be more aggressive in knowing that I was going to get that optimal play, and I did, and it showed in the score. So I think that that's true, but to me, I took that as a feature of the game, and that worked out really well.
Keys, 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 keys.
Is that like shots?
Yep,
shots?
it is. We're popping off. Extra play. Give me the key.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
4 different values.
Dang.
20 points.
Aw, dang.
Thank you.
Oh, can't.
Let me move those for you.
So it's a drafting game. It's a more complex drafting game. You know, when I'm playing Sushi Go and I've got my tempura strategy all figured out, you know, that's pretty straightforward. I can tell which plays are more advantageous. But in this game, you have a variety of plays to choose from, and it's not always apparent which are going to be more advantageous. It's a very either or. You're doing a little bit of min-maxing. There are some times when the best play is very obvious, but a lot of times you just gotta take a shot in the dark and see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think this is one where you want to play this game if you want to spend a fair amount of time considering your moves. Like, this isn't a game where you should just be trying to rush things and say, let's just play and see what works and stuff like this. It's a game built around like ultimate combos and really cool like build up to your moves later on, and this all takes thought and consideration. You're going to want to spend some time doing that. So I would say if you want to make it be a 45 or 50 minute game, there's probably better games out there for you. If you want to spend an hour and a half really just sitting there with a group of people who are also going to sit there and think about, yeah, if I did this, then I get the extra card out of that, and then I get to make these moves. It's really rewarding if you take the time to do that. And I think the players who came out with the high scores had the coolest, like, yes, I get to do this into this, and then this, plus another 20 points here and there. And it's a really cool game for that kind of thinking.
I would definitely say yes. This is, and that wasn't really it wasn't apparent to me at the beginning, but yes, this is a game about making combos, and I think the second time I play this game, I will be able to do that much better.
Mm-hmm.
So, I agree with your conclusion on the what you're doing in this game is about making these plays that have these great combos. But I disagree with the this is a game where you're really gonna go in deep into thinking to come up with that optimal play. I believe this is much more of I understand that a third of your plays are gonna be just garbage. Right, you're just good. Like, the choices aren't going to be there. You're going to play something. You're going to take a couple of points. Maybe you're going to set yourself up. They're not going to be there, such that you can take those big plays when they come up. And a number of the combos that I had became apparent on the time I was making the play. Like, I didn't get to preset those, and trying to plot out this grand strategy that wasn't in this game. So that what I felt from this is, if you want that experience of getting those crazy combos with the appearance of plotting out a grand strategy, but not the requirement, and indeed you don't benefit from plotting out the grand strategy, this really shone, and that's my reflection on having played this and having had a lot of those crazy combos in the game that we played. But I was not plotting out grand strategy. All right, so I am going to play into green, but I'm going to not match.
There it is.
So that's going to be 6 points. And then I get a bonus play, which is going to be... I was going to take something different, but I'm going to take this one, which is going to go there. So that's going to be 6 points, doubled as 12. And then I'm going to get another 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to take another bonus play and play there for 1 point, so I can take that 20
Yeah.
and go to 10, 20.
Yeah, I
All right, you can leave and we can just try to build
build.
That's one of the things I like about drafting games, is that this is a terrible hand. I hate this hand. It's really nothing good in this hand. I only have it for this one play.
Yeah.
So I have my one less optimal or bad play. This goes away. I get new cards from Gordon, which could be a really great hand. Because sometimes Gordon doesn't know what I have, doesn't know what I'm playing. I play this card that wasn't optimal. Gordon just handed me something that made that card actually better too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of those surprises I like in a drafting game, because you never know fully what's happening every turn, because you're going to get different cards all the time. You can only plan on what I have here, not what's coming.
The last thing that's worth mentioning, and it's because it's at the end of the game, is that this game is very uniquely transparent, pun intended, about the points everybody's gained so far. Every time you make a play, no matter how many bonuses or extra things happen as a result of that play, you record all of the points you gained from that play all at once, and there's nothing else you'll be gaining from that play at the end of the game or anything like that. So you don't have to memorize that somebody's got some secret point stash coming up that you know about but have to remember, and that's going to get recorded at the end. Everything is right there for you to see at all times. So no matter how far ahead or behind you are, you know the deal, and you know how much ground you have to make up, and there's nothing hidden there. So it's pretty cool.
Something that the hidden points gives you, of course, is the come from behind strategy, right? The surprise come from behind.
Mm-hmm.
This game gives you a come from behind, because the way in which you can score points, you can score a lot of points.
Yeah.
So there's still a come from behind, but it does so without any secrecy involved.
Yeah,
I think that's
feel
pretty
that.
awesome. Yeah.
Inside, it's built
Yeah.
in, it's baked
Yeah.
in.
All right, I think that does it for Mille Fiori. We had a really good time with this one. Hope you had a fun time watching. As always, if you want to watch us play a new game every single week, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a comment if you got a comment, and check out our online store. You can see all the cool games like Mille Fiori. Thanks so much for watching this week, and we will see you next time.